But speaking of corruption, apparently President Joe Biden and Hunter Biden are back in the news again in reference to their business dealings in Ukraine. And I'm saying it in that way because the clip that I'm going to show you, that's exactly how Nico House expresses it. Nico was going to give you a very quick rundown about what happened here, and then we're going to break some things down because Joe Biden is under investigation because of Hunter Biden's business dealings in Ukraine. Let's let Nico go ahead and take it away. He said, breaking, Biden under investigation by House Oversight Committee for bribery scheme involving Hunter Biden's position with Ukraine's Burisma energy company. Oh, Chris Wray may also be held in contempt for withholding evidence against the Bidens. I kid you not. Guys, this is wild. Let's hear it.
Hey, yo, there are bribery allegations involving Joe Biden and Hunter Biden's position on Burisma Energy Company in Ukraine, which is crazy because they were literally reporting in 2019 that there were unsupported accusations that Joe Biden improperly tried to help his son's business interests in Ukraine. But according to the chairman of the House Oversight Committee, Joe Biden participated in a $5 million bribery scheme to help his son get an energy job in Ukraine. The chairman even says that Christopher Wray is in contempt because he tried to hide evidence that Joe Biden was trying to commit bribery to help the corruption of the Hunter Biden in Ukraine. Are y'all starting to see the pattern here? I'm starting to see the pattern.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and get into that because I know I talked about this a while back when I said that the House Oversight Committee was looking into Joe Biden and Hunter Biden's business dealings in Ukraine. But now this has made international news. Officially, it looks like they are going to have a real investigation. I probably shouldn't laugh about this. That's probably not funny. I'm sorry. But they're going to have a real investigation, apparently, about this. And to go along with it, they are now reporting that Joe Biden allegedly pocketed $5 million in this bribery scheme. I kid you not. Sky News Australia was on it. Let's go ahead and share. By the way, it's very difficult to find information about this on YouTube, by the way. That's why I have the one from Sky News. Sorry.
Well, the bribe and Biden allegations are heating up again today as further information has come to light. Fox News Digital is reporting that Joe Biden was paid $5 million by Ukrainian natural gas company Burisma Holdings while he was the vice president. All week, there has been headlines surrounding whether or not Joe Biden accepted a bribe from a foreign national in exchange for government policy decisions when he worked under the Obama administration. Senator Chuck Grassley and Congressman James Comer were told by a whistleblower that the FBI have in their possession a document that proved Joe Biden was involved in a criminal scheme. There wasn't proper confirmation over which foreign country this could be in relation to. However, Burisma Holdings is the same company that Hunter Biden sat on the board of from 2014 to 2019. He was reportedly paid $1 million a year and, according to invoices from his laptop, was paid over $83,000 a month to sit on the board. However, from May 2017, after Joe Biden was no longer the vice president, Hunter Biden's monthly invoices from Burisma were reduced to $41,000.
You know what's funny about this? So he was making like $83,000 a month just to sit on the board, like something that a lot of you probably never even make in 1 year. And then when Joe Biden left office, they reduced Hunter Biden's salary to like $43,000 a month. And that's still like insane, crazy amount of salary. Again, some of you will never make that in 1 year. Let's go on.
This document, which is called an FBI-generated FD 1023 form, came to be after a confidential human source gave information to the FBI about it in June 2020. According to Fox News, who have spoken to a source familiar with the document, the FBI's informant had multiple meetings with the top Burisma executive for years from 2015. The Burisma executive was keen on gaining US oil rights and getting involved with a US oil company and wanted to know how best to do it.
Now, if this executive is trying to gain U.S. oil rights. Again, just going back before Joe Biden was president. Why would Joe Biden tell the lie, no more drilling, no more oil permits? Obviously, we see that's not true. I didn't believe him back then, but some people did. To get elected, that's why, right? To try to win over some of the Bernie crowd. Never had any intention of following that.
The article reads, the Burisma executive explained to the confidential source that Burisma had to pay the Bidens because Ukrainian prosecutor Viktor Shokin was investigating Burisma, and explained how difficult it would be to enter the US market in the midst of that investigation. This Burisma executive allegedly told the confidential source that he had to pay both Joe Biden and Hunter Biden $5 million each as some kind of retainer to deal with a number of issues, including the investigation led by...
Pause. That is absolutely insane. This is so dirty and grimy and corrupt. Listen to how much money they were being paid, guys.
Executive allegedly told the confidential source that he had to pay both Joe Biden and Hunter Biden $5 million each as some kind of retainer to deal with a number of issues, including the investigation led by Shokin.
$5 million. That's insane. This is the bribe that they're referring to, the $5 million. So we had a former president who is being Jesus, I can't make this up. We have a former president who is being indicted. We have a current president who took bribes where he was paid $5 million because of Hunter Biden's business dealings in Ukraine. And here we are funding Ukraine, giving them billions of dollars to supposedly fight in this war. Now, come on now. Let's put all of this together, guys. Hearing all of this, if you still believe that Russia blew up their own pipeline, their own bridge, their own dam, after all of this, guys, put the pieces of the puzzle together. All roads lead to Joe. Let's go on.
The sources also claim that these $5 million payments to both Bidens were done through various bank accounts so that investigators would not be able to unravel this for at least 10 years.
Which means they knew they were doing something that was wrong. If they're doing it through multiple bank accounts so that you can't track it, they knew that what they were doing is wrong. They knew that shit was illegal. So again, where is the indictment against Joe Biden?
So what does Joe Biden think of all these accusations floating about?
Woman Nancy May says there's damning evidence in the FBI file that you sold out of the country. Do you have a response to the congressional Republicans?
Where's the money? I'm joking.
Mr. President,
It's a bunch of malarkey.
Mr. President.
That's how you respond? Oh, boy.
This all comes back to the fact that James Comer had issued a subpoena to the FBI to hand over the alleged document, which he has now reviewed himself after the Bureau allowed him and Democratic ranking member Jamie Raskin to see it in a closed meeting. There had been back and forth over whether this document even existed, but the FBI have said its existence is not disproven and that it has been used in an ongoing investigation. The FBI have also been attempting to protect their informant's safety, who is considered a highly credible and trusted source for over 10 years. The Bureau refused to hand over the physical copy to the House Oversight Committee to review for themselves.
If the FBI is saying that it has been a highly credible, confidential, and trusted source for over 10 years, that tells me it was probably somebody on the inside. It was probably someone who was already on the inside.
This prompted James Comer to threaten initiating contempt proceedings against FBI Director Christopher Wray for failing to hand over the document so all members of the committee could see it. That's despite the fact that Comer and Raskin were allowed, just the two of them, to see it in the closed meeting. Coma has now scrapped plans to hold Mr. Ray in contempt after the FBI said the Bureau would allow all members of the House Oversight Committee to review the document, which according to CNN will begin today. South Carolina Congresswoman Nancy Mace has now reviewed the document and said it was worse than has been reported so far. She told Fox News Digital that it showed damning evidence the sitting president of the United States sold out his country in an ongoing bribery scheme. Now, earlier in the week, it was just James Comer and Jamie Raskin who had seen the FD 1023 document, but they both came out of the meeting with separate stories about what it revealed. Because Democratic ranking member Jamie Raskin said there was an assessment into this document at the time alleging a crime by Joe Biden, but there wasn't any evidence necessary to require further probing. The statement read, "In August 2020, that assessment was closed after a determination was made that there was no more investigative steps to be taken and the evidence collected did not meet FBI's standards for an opening of a preliminary or full-scale investigation."
Oh, August 2020, how convenient. How convenient they would say there was no reason to have a full-scale investigation.
Namely, that the assessment had not developed an articulable factual basis to reasonably indicate a crime may have occurred. The FBI read an excerpt from the memorandum closing this assessment, which was signed off on by Mr. Brady and high-ranking officials in the Trump Justice Department. But Bill Barr, who was the Attorney General at the time and was named by Jamie Raskin in his statement, has poked holes in the congressman's recollection of events. He has claimed that Jamie Raskin is confused. The case was not closed. The assessment of evidence was sent off to Delaware to be further investigated. Bill Barr said at the time this was considered more of a screening of information, which resulted in the development of this controversial FD 1023 form. This information, which was provided by the confidential human source, was checked out and determined it was not likely to have been disinformation, and so it was then handed off to the ongoing investigation into the Biden family, which has been operating out of Delaware since 2018. So why now, in 2023, are we hearing about this FD 1023 form if it's apparently being used in an ongoing federal investigation?
This is dating all the way back to 2020. Most of us just heard about it this year. That magical little year.
Nearly 5 years later, there's no public updates on the FBI probe.
Now, I understand a lot of Republicans are very frustrated because that investigation in Delaware has been going on for 4.5 years.
This guy isn't trustworthy either.
It was going on for 2 years under me, and now another 2.5 years. And, you know, a lot of damage is being done to the country and to the department because of the silence and the failure to reach a decision. I think it's time to fish or cut bait and find out what actually happened in that investigation.
With speculation floating about that Joe Biden was involved in a criminal bribery scheme with Ukraine, it does cast further doubt over his narrative that he has never spoken to his son Hunter about his business deals. But nearly 5 years into the investigation into the Biden family, there seems to be no outcome so far. Joe Biden, however, claims that he has never influenced the decisions of the Department of Justice.
You notice I have never once, not one single time, suggested to the Justice Department what they should do or not do relative to bringing a charge or not bringing a charge.
Yeah. So I'm just going to say it does not look good. It does not look good. And I say this because let's keep it real. If there wasn't this war right now with Russia and Ukraine, maybe it could be a little bit easier for people to kind of overlook this. But considering what is happening right now with Russia and Ukraine, and considering the U.S. shelling out billions of dollars to Ukraine, and considering that the U.S. chose to escalate this war and not de-escalate this war, it's not a good look for Joe Biden. Fox Business actually discussed this in reference to the House Oversight Committee. You got to hear what they have to say about this.
Let's welcome back Newsweek opinion editor Batya Ungar-Sargon. Batya, the big story of the day is that members of House Oversight read that FBI document from an FBI confidential informant. The FBI has used this person for at least 10 years. They're now talking about two separate $5 million payments, one to Joe Biden, one to Hunter Biden. There's no proof that they got the money, but there's also evidence that there was major use of off-balance sheet shell companies to bury the cash drops from overseas. What do you think of the story?
So it doesn't look good. It looks bad. I want to know more for sure. But I have to tell you, Liz, I've been working on this book about the American working class. I've been traveling the country for the last year, interviewing Republican and Democrat working class Americans. And I got to tell you, when the word Ukraine comes up, it's not in this context. It's in the context of, why are we sending billions of dollars there when we have so many problems here? And Liz, I hear this from...
Duh. She had to go travel the country to meet working class people to hear that rhetoric because she's writing a book. This is the funny part about this. If it wasn't for her writing this book, I'm writing a book about working class people. So I traveled across the country to talk to working class people. And I found out they really want to know, why are we giving billions of dollars to Ukraine? What? You had to go to... Jeez. Oh.
Republican working class voters all the time, hardworking Americans who can't afford the American dream anymore. And so I would just urge people who are spending a lot of energy on this to keep in mind who your voter base is, because they have real problems right now. And they agree with you about this. They agree with you about the woke issue, but they're...
It's like she just found this out. It's like you don't know any working class people. Like, I'm really confused. I don't understand this. Guess what? They are really done. It's like she just found this out yesterday. It's really weird.
Their kitchen table issues are really hurting.
Yeah, we're just reporting on the issues. I mean, but we understand you're in touch with the middle class, working class voter. And, when they see stuff like this going on, I mean, you're right. The voter polls show they don't like the direction of the country. 7 out of 10 say we're heading in the wrong direction. They don't like what this White House has been doing. That's like 6 out of 10. We're talking Gallup, Quinnipiac, Monmouth, Emerson polls. But when you see the behaviorally, so the White House is trying to shut this down. But Batya, we got to stay on the story. And the story is this. The pattern is this, that the Biden family game plan was cash in on Vice President Biden's job, earn millions in consulting fees, set up dozens of shell companies to bury the cash drops of from overseas. We're tracking $4.6 million that went to Hunter Biden shell companies.
And that's just the amount that they were able to track. 4.6 million. Like, you see what I mean? Like, this money went somewhere. Look, guys, they show the wire transfers. So when Joe Biden made that comment, where's the money? It's right there. Some of it's right there. I mean, to me, it's like, oh my God.
And his law firm for consulting services out of Ukraine's Burisma. And there's talk of a $5 million bribery involving this, and then Vice President Biden. The working class America and middle America do not like seeing stories like this at all.
Absolutely. And I'll take it even further. The injustice of the difference between how the media treats Joe Biden and the way they treated President Trump, that bothers people a lot, right? I mean, can you even imagine if a Republican had done this, you wouldn't have the media essentially covering for them the way the liberal media is covering for Joe Biden right now. So I totally agree with you on that.
What bothers them the most?
The fact that the American dream is so far out of reach for the hardest working Americans.
Why don't you just ask that question to those working class people? This is something I don't really understand about corporate media. And some independent media will do this too. It's like they'll bring on a journalist who's writing a book who traveled across the country to interview working class people to understand how working class people feel, instead of just leaving your desk and going out on the street, hitting the pavement and talking to working class people. The old school way of doing it. Actually talking to those people yourself and not taking the word of someone who's writing a book, who's never been working class. I never understood these things. It's really weird. Really strange to me.
All right, so you got then the Biden family is being accused by House Oversight GOP lawmakers, Senators Chuck Grassley, Senator Ron Johnson. You know, they're saying that basically Joe Biden was not going to be the presidential nominee in 2016. Last year and a half of his vice presidency, he's like, okay, we'll just go in and just try to make some money for the family. I mean, that's the psychology that the House GOP lawmakers are claiming is at play here. Final word.
It's very hard to disagree with that. It really looks like that happened. And the more evidence that comes out seems to only confirm that. So, I mean, you know, I think they're right.
Notice that Batya, she didn't really say much about the actual investigation and claims, you know, that are happening. She didn't say much about that. She turned the topic to like what she's writing her book about, because, you know, she's trying to find a way to defend in some way, shape, or form the Democratic Party. That's what I think. That's what I believe, bud.